We now continue with Smurf.
This happened to me some years ago now. This was honestly probably the catalyst for me finally quitting the force. I used to work as a cop in a not so small town in the Midwest, and I am not going to be more specific than that. I don't want people finding out who I am, or, people figuring things out. I joined the police force from a young age. I worked the beat for a while, worked some rural stretches where I would mostly be in a cruiser and responding to silly disputes between farmers or idiot teenagers stealing pigs and running across the property. The worst sight I ever saw before this story was probably a dead kid. He must have been around 12 to 13 years old. He was stone dead, right at the entrance to a sheep pen. They stole some alcohol from their parents' liquor cabinet. They got drunk very quickly. Then his friends thought it would be funny to sneak onto the farm and tag a sheep with a spray paint can. It was winter and boy was it foggy. I think it was over Christmas break actually. The farmer in the house heard some commotion. He said he heard the boy fumbling over the wood fence and knocking a metal gate slightly. The boy must have been too drunk to realize just how loud he was being. The farmer grabs his gun and sneaks around back to try and get a clear line of sight. This kid is tall for his age. All the farmer sees in this mist and fog and darkness is a tall male figure holding something, approaching his defenseless sheep. He hears one of the sheep start to scream, and then boom, he kills the kid stone dead right there. He thought he was going to kill all his sheep. Telling his parents was the worst part. Having them find out that there was barely any of his head still left intact to even identify him by, and hearing their wails was even worse. Anyway, by this point I had seen it all, so when the dispatcher got on the radio to me and informed me of the situation, I was just ready. I had been just going through the motions all that day. It was mostly just routine traffic stops and such, but I was tired. I think my partner was feeling it too. I think everything was just getting on top of us. I caught him nodding off a couple of times in the passenger seat beside me. The dispatcher started laying out the situation for us. The dispatcher said that a man of around 30 to 40 years old had been yelling down the line and that she could not calm him down. She said he yelled for a good few minutes straight before hanging up and being unable to be reached afterward. The dispatcher told us that the man had heard noises outside and went to investigate, and upon doing so was attacked. After a scuffle, the man had no idea where the assailant went, and that was about the most that she could make out of his rant. We headed out there ASAP. I think the property was only around a 10 to 15 minute drive away, and we were told not to delay. We pulled up just a short distance away and observed the property for signs of any immediate threats. Sometimes, assailants will stick around, hoping to get another chance, or hoping to break in through a different access point. Sometimes they do not know when to give up until it's too late, and you can catch them fleeing in the nearby area. Since nothing was spotted, we decided our roles. I would be approaching the house, gaining entry, and then securing it while questioning the caller. My partner was to secure the perimeter and check the backyard for any signs of the assailant and any signs of a scuffle or where they may have fled to. I approached the door and announced myself while my partner slinked around the back. This man, who I could tell immediately was the caller, yanked the door open at light speed and begged me to come inside. I quickly checked the entry points of the property while my partner updated me over the radio that the backyard of the property appeared clear after an initial sweep. He said he would check for any signs of the perpetrator while I finished up here. It didn't look like anyone had tried to gain entry. None of the doors or windows looked damaged or anything. I gave a quick update to dispatch confirming that there was no threat in the immediate area and that I was talking to the caller now who was safe. The whole time I'm searching the access points, talking to my partner and talking to dispatch, this guy has not stopped talking even once. I tried to calm him down, to ask him to explain the situation to me while sitting down, but he just would not. His face by this point was bright red. His eyes looked bloodshot, and it looked like his left eye kept twitching involuntarily. His wife or GF or whatever was just sat on the couch with her hands clasped together and shaking. I asked her, "Ma'am, are you okay?" but she seemed shell-shocked and barely got the words out when she replied, "I'm just scared." Again, this guy is talking in this non-stop stream, and I am amazed he has not had to stop for breath yet. I ask him what happened, and here is what I got out of it. He tells me about the yard. He said that he heard weird noises outside, and his wife got really scared and asked him to go and check. He said he thought he heard growling at first, and thought he was going to have to fight off a wild animal, but then he said it was not growling. He would not elaborate on that until I pushed him, and then he told me it sounded like a human making a groaning noise. I asked him what kind of groaning noise, and the only way he could describe it to me was someone choking on something, choking on blood, which I thought was oddly specific. I asked him what happened after that. He said he did not own a gun, so grabbed a baseball bat from his cabinet and slowly opened up the door. He said he did not turn on the lights in the yard because he did not want the animal or person to know he was coming. Instead, he had a flashlight in his back pocket just in case he needed to see more clearly. He said when he got outside, he shut the door very quietly and tried to stay in the shadows while he looked around. He said he heard the noise. The person was next to one of the windows at the rear of the house. I asked what they were doing, if maybe they were casing the place. He just straight up tells me no. He said the person, who was standing up probably around 6 foot tall or so, and who looked much stronger than him, was just walking into the wall. I asked him what he meant, and he repeated that the person was just walking into the wall where the window was. He said he kept walking, and every time he hit the wall, he stumbled back a foot or so and made the groaning sound again. He told me he thought the guy was high or something. He told me they get them a lot around this area. I mean, he isn't wrong. I've dealt with a lot of tweakers in my time, and this sounded textbook. He told me in that moment he just kind of panicked and shouted at the guy to get off of his property. He told this guy that he was armed and was not afraid to hurt him. He said that upon saying this, the men suddenly went quiet and shot around. He said that the man looked deathly pale and just really unwell. He said the skin, especially around his face, looked swollen and sunken in and looked like it was really dry and cracking in certain places. He told me that at this point, he turned on his flashlight to get a better view, and that is why he could make out all of these details. The second he turned on his flashlight, he noticed that the man's eyes had no whites. They were all this pinkish hue, and he told me that all in one split second, this man went from standing, looking dazed and staring lifelessly, to moving at a speed he could not even properly react to. He heard a moan and saw a blur of movement and tried to swing as he dropped his flashlight, but that he could not in time. The man had run and ducked just slightly underneath where he had swung and tackled him to the ground and began flailing on top of him as he used the bat to try and hold him back. He was holding the bat against the man's neck as the man apparently started drooling all over his face while he flapped his hands to try and grab him by the face. This apparently went on for a couple of seconds before the man retreated his face, and then suddenly the caller felt a sharp pain and a burning in his leg. He said the man had bitten him, and upon feeling this, and finally having enough leverage to fend him off, he was able to strike the man several times on the back of the head with the bat. He said that the man did not seem to be harmed, and even shot him what he told me was an angry look before getting up and eventually scrambling off. He disappeared into the nearby bushes as the narrator hit him a few more times as he fled. At this point, I feel I should mention that this whole time that the caller was telling me this, I noticed that he had begun to start sweating. Again, he barely took a breath, and he had started to look a little bit queasy. I honestly thought that he might pass out, just from the look of him. It was at this point the caller pulled up his trousers and told me to take a look for myself to prove he was not lying, but aside from some redness near his ankle, I could not see any signs of a bite. I was keeping my partner updated on the radio and told him to head back in towards me. All throughout this story, by the way, the wife has not looked up once, and the man is now starting to clutch at his chest as he continues to ramble about the bite and the burning. He is telling me how he cannot feel his feet anymore. I tell him that he should sit down and that I will grab some water, and I alert both my partner and dispatch to the situation at the same time. He takes a few steps backwards but is unsteady on his feet, and I see his hands just trembling away. He takes another step. He tries to sit down, but he misses, and his ass hits the ground. I ask him if he is okay, but I noticed he has started foaming at the mouth and is now shaking violently. His wife has jumped up to her feet, but still is not saying a word. She is just looking on in complete shock. I am now yelling for my partner to get in here and telling dispatch we need an ambulance immediately. My partner previously worked as a paramedic for a number of years, so my thinking was that he could try and get me to stabilize the man before EMS got here. Anything that we could do to give him a better chance of survival and give the EMS an easier time. In the handful of seconds it takes my partner to get inside though, the shaking has stopped and the man is not moving. My partner comes in, checks vitals, etc., but he is pretty sure the man is dead. He has no pulse whatsoever. Upon hearing this from us, the wife just starts bawling her eyes out. We update dispatch, and they tell us that EMS are already en route and that the ETA is around 15 minutes. My partner is tending to the man still, but he tells me that he found something, weird in the yard. He told me he saw some footprints and some marks from the scuffle where the two had hit the ground pretty hard. But he told me he found something weird and holds it up to me after pulling it out from his pocket. It's an identification card. It's an identification card for the US government, but that's not all. It's an identification card for the Department of fucking Defense. Holy shit. I mentioned it over the radio. This guy has clearly gone on some kind of crime spree and stolen this card from a worker's home. Who knows how many houses he has broken into or tried to break into. Dispatch was silent for an awfully long time, and I was worried that there was something wrong with my radio. When I got a response again, it was a different person. It was a man now, and he sounded really old. He told me that an ambulance would be there ASAP, along with more officers. I was like, what the hell? This is a medical emergency with no immediate threat, and we never asked for backup. I just said roger that, and told my partner over my shoulder that dispatch was being weird. I was facing away at this point and looking outside of the window. My partner does not respond at first, and I'm like, dude. I turn around to see my partner stood in complete shock, and then I see what he is looking at. The man who he basically pronounced dead is shaking again. Not like the electrical impulses that are still around that make muscles twitch and spasm after someone dies. I am talking about a full-on body shaking. This goes on for about 20 seconds before his eyes roll back open. They now have a pinkish/reddish hue to them, and they do not look right. We try to speak to the man and figure out whether he is properly conscious and is aware, but he does not respond to anything. We tell his wife to take a step back and to come and stand behind us for safety, but she does not even acknowledge us and just stands there watching. The shaking continues, but now focused only in the torso region. I see the caller move his fingers on both hands in a pattern. He is flexing all of his fingers in this sort of wave motion. His neck is propped up, and he is looking directly at the ceiling, and I swear on my life this next part is true. He begins to stand. He is still looking directly up at the ceiling, and his torso is still like vibrating, but he begins to get to his feet. Again, he is not responding to us whatsoever, and I am now screaming down the radio at dispatch, saying, he got back up. I do not know what is happening, but he got back up. He starts taking steps towards us while still staring at the ceiling, and we are now commanding him to back up. We are telling him he needs to sit down on the couch and wait until the medical professionals arrive, but he does not stop. He is just taking more and more steps. He just keeps moving forward. His wife is grabbing onto his arm, clinging to him, and is crying while begging him to listen to us. We are now yelling at her to get behind us for safety, but she is not listening either. While in the midst of taking these steps, he suddenly snaps his head down to face directly forward, and I hear this sickening crack sound. We have our guns at low ready, and we tell him to get on the ground immediately. This guy is unarmed and very clearly unwell, and with his wife right next to him and refusing to cooperate, we obviously did not want to escalate the situation. We did not want to cause any more harm to a man who by all means should have already died, but we could not take any risks. By this point, I have no idea what is going on, and I can't think of any kind of medical condition that could cause such a rapid change in a person, to make them act so crazy and frantic. Finally, after lots of yelling from us and crying from his wife, the caller stops on the spot. But this only lasts for probably about half a second in total. It all happened so fast. In that split second, the caller snaps his head to his right-hand side, where he sees his wife. We could not react fast enough to stop him. He lunges at her while making this horrible noise. It sounds like his throat is completely dry and yet clogged up with a year's worth of mucus at the same time. My partner rushes in to pull the man off of his wife, as we cannot risk taking a shot while he is flailing, as we might accidentally injure her. But the damage is already done. I can see his mouth around her neck and his teeth pressed firmly in. She is bleeding badly. I am shouting at dispatch as the situation escalates, and I am told they are probably seconds away by now. My partner cannot wrestle him off. He told me after the fact it seemed like he had the strength of every single man in the world. I can see that the wife is not moving anymore, so I take the decision. I tell my partner to move, and I place a shot center mass. Again, all of this scramble happened in literal seconds. From him lunging, to the bite, to her going limp, to me deciding to shoot, cannot have even been 10 seconds in total. That is just how quickly you have to react on the job. I put 2 shots, 3 shots center mass, but this bastard is not even slowing down. He is still just ripping and tearing at his wife, with his teeth and his fingernails that are full of blood and have dirt from outside caught underneath them. My partner, who had a much better angle than I, managed to connect with a round directly to the caller's head, and he went limp. My partner rushed to attend to the wife, but it did not look good. I don't even think a full minute went by before the front door was practically smashed open, and a group of around 4 officers entered first. The ambulance was right outside. I could see it through the window. I could hear the sirens going off, but the EMS was being held back by 2 other officers outside, and all I could do was shout, "She is going to die if you do not let them help her." I could not understand why medical attention was being delayed. I was ignored while they began to just take over and sweep the house. I asked them what the hell they were doing until one of them grabbed me by my shoulders and forcefully pushed me up against the wall and told me to shut up and let them do their job. This guy was wearing the same uniform and badge as me, but I had never seen him around anywhere before, and he was not acting like a run-of-the-mill cop from around here. He told me that me and my partner were to get the hell out before he threw us out. I almost punched the bastard right there before my partner blocked me and pulled me outside. Another car pulled up not long after that. Looked like FBI getting out of that car. I had to write up a detailed report. I ended up getting pulled in to talk to the chief of police directly. He told me he wanted to know each and every word from me directly. I told him exactly what I saw and exactly what I thought, both now and then in the moment. Then he just tells me it was nothing to worry about. He told me that the officers that he had sent in as a backup had found some pills on the scene that were not prescription. They looked home-brewed, as he called it. He said they also found some used needles in the bedroom, and that it was probably a junkie who finally snapped. He reassured me the house probably was not attacked, and that he had just made it up in his head, had a medical episode of some kind, and then acted out violently due to the drugs still in his system and his confused brain. I tried to interrupt him and tell him that did not add up with what we found outside, both the tracks and the stolen identity card that my partner handed in. He looked at me puzzled and told me that my partner had not handed anything in, and I told him that was impossible. He kinda made this sigh and gave me this pitiful look and was like, "Look, son, you've had a rough night. Been pushing yourself too hard. Go home and get some rest. You did all you could. This was not your fault." And before I could even argue back, I was sent packing out of the room. The woman apparently died on scene. She made it to the hospital eventually, but was already long gone, and there was nothing they could do for her. I got hold of my partner around a week or so later. I had not heard from him since that night, and I was kind of worried. He was kind of nervous and evasive when I talked to him. I asked him about the identity card, and he acted all shaky and tried to give me a puzzled look. He just told me he had no idea what I was talking about. Then he told me that he was just up and quitting. He said he had enough and could not go through with something like that again. He told me, and he said this verbatim, that he was scared he might not make it back home to his wife and kids next time. I mean, what does that even mean? I never found anything else out after that. The rest is a complete mystery to me. I am just glad I do not have to deal with crazy bullshit like that daily anymore. Hey, hope you've enjoyed the story so far. If you want to hear more, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment because it lets YouTube know you like the content and helps more people to see these videos. My next big goal for the channel is 100,000 subscribers, and as a celebration, I will be doing a Q&A video once we hit that goal. Thank you, and back to the stories. This story takes place in Long Island. My dad at the time was a police officer. This story happened to my dad. Be my dad. Have to work night shifts. 12 a.m. to 8 a.m. or something like that. My job is to lock down parks and beaches at night. I go into the pitch black darkness and search for people and then lock up the park. Rinse and repeat for each and every park on my patrol. The sky is beautiful at night. Once at a park, decide to chill for a minute. I look up in the sky. I see a star moving very fast. It is bouncing up and down and making shapes in the sky. It goes very fast and then stops for a second and then continues. It's doing like unbelievable turns, like 90 degrees going straight down and all, to be a satellite or a plane. Those two could not do the turns this thing was doing. I get scared as all hell. I remember that I have my BlackBerry phone. I record this stuff. I get in my police vehicle and book it. When I was young, I am into all of the police stuff that my dad did, so when he came home, I will ask him about his day. He told me the usual crap when he talks about the light he saw. He had almost HD video, and you can see that little star moving around. Back then, I did not think much of it, but realizing it now, I asked my dad about that, and he says he might even still have the footage of the light, since we have a hard drive with roughly over 10 years of data. I remember seeing that shit with my own eyes on his phone. He has many other paranormal stories when he goes on patrol. He is going to check the hard drive at his work in a few days to see if he still has the video. Hey all, time for another story. My dad is a police officer and he works the night shifts. He is seen and been through a lot of stuff. This night, he is an auxiliary. It took place a few years ago, which is basically a cop volunteer. He told me this a while ago when he came back. His job is usually just to lock down the parks and beaches at night. This actually took place on a famous local beach on Long Island called West Meadow Beach. If you live on Long Island, you would know it. This was around 12 a.m. at the beach. Be my dad, roughly 4 to 5 years ago. He has this friend, let's call him Greg. Greg and I go to parks and beaches. We pull up together at a beach called West Meadow Beach. We go inside the gates. He and I have our windows rolled down. Greg and I are making small talk. I look through the rearview mirror and see something like pick related. The gnome. Small. Maybe the size of a radiator in a home. Like 2 foot tall. It's a little hunched over, kind of making some sort of dance walk. It dragged its leg as it ran hunched over. I turned to Greg. Hey, did you see that? Yes. Oh shit. I think it may be a kid. Sadly, it is my job to look over things like this. I turn on the spotlight and begin my search. I get out of the car with my flashlight with Greg and proceed to look around. I can't see anything. I look around the tree line. It's absolutely quiet and there is nothing to be found. We get out of there. Greg and I decide to brush it off as geese since it's season, etc., etc. The next day, which was a Friday actually, it's around 12 a.m. We park in the same spot we have always parked at. Here is the layout of the beach. There is a road that no one really goes on because it is really dark, etc. On this road, there is an abandoned house. It's about a stone's throw away, pardon the pun. Suddenly, a rock hits my windshield. I brush it off. Another one hits my windshield. What the hell is going on? Then another one hits Greg's windshield. I am scared shitless, but brush it off, as thinking kids in abandoned houses are just messing with us. We get out of our cars, turning on every light we had. We search everywhere on the beach. There is not a soul in sight. We just book it out of there after locking the gates. So, he calls it a gnome. My dad, being the rookie that he is, decides not to tell anyone in fear of being made fun of in the police department. It turns out that the other officers who have visited the beach also have had odd experiences, and some even claim to have seen this gnome. It got so bad in the police department that the volunteer officers would bring shotguns if they were going to that beach. Even the head chief of the department sent a letter to all of the officers saying that they do not have authority to shoot the gnome or little people because there is no lethal threat. They don't want to hurt animals or kids. Unrelated to this story of ridicule, my dad was with his buddy when a dog attacked them while on patrol. The dog bit into the officer's arm, and so he shot the dog in the head face down, so he shot his own arm as well. People to this day still leave puppy pictures on his police locker. That is being made fun of in the police department. I have told this one before, but it really sticks with me, and I like sharing it in these threads. I am state police. I regularly do river patrols to try and find shit like drug farms, abandoned boats, hermits living off the shore, poachers, etc. It was my day off. I was practicing my boating and familiarizing myself with the river. The area was gorgeous, and I was mostly using it as an excuse to borrow a boat. I am scoping out the distance here and there with my binoculars, not really doing anything, just watching buzzards and seeing if I could spot any wildlife along the shores up ahead. I see this white birch-like tree with no leaves on it, not shaped like a birch tree at all. The very second I see it, I feel like there is something wrong with it. I notice its branches are moving kind of weirdly, while all of the other trees are moving uniformly with the wind. It starts just wigging out and wiggling. It's doing this weird kind of bouncy dance-like movement, like a bouncing S-shape, inverting and reverting over and over. It really gives me some extremely bad vibes. I notice most of the birds in the area have completely shut up, despite this being pretty far away. I don't really care if it's a bad omen or some kind of messed up unique mutant thing. I just want to get a closer look. I brought my SKS just in case anyway. It made me feel better to have it near my hands. It is completely gone by the time I get to the area. I've gone back through the area a few times and I have never seen it again. I am bad at drawing with a mouse, but it looked pretty close to this. I have tried to seek any explanation whatsoever for what this thing could have been, even paranormal, but all I get by people is, maybe something possessed it, or maybe it was God or something. Those are not super satisfying answers. I tried asking some storytellers in my tribal community, but nobody knows of anything like that in the area, and these guys could talk about shit like bears that have human faces, and double-headed crows as big as a house. I could not find anything that even comes close to describing the shit. This might be nothing, but might also be a solid lead. It reminds me of something Charles Fort wrote about in New Lands, 1923. October 15th, 1922. A large quantity of white substance that fell upon the shores of Lake Michigan near Chicago. It fell upon the clothes of hundreds of persons, fell upon the campus of Northwestern University. It occurred to one of these hundreds or thousands of persons to collect some of this substance. He is Mr. L.A. Hopkins, 111 West Jackson Boulevard, Chicago. He sent me a sample. I think that it is a spiderweb because it is viscous. When burned, it chars with the crinkled effect of burned hairs and feathers, and the odor is similar, but it is a strong, tough substance of a cottony texture when rolled up. The interesting circumstance to me is that the similar substance has fallen frequently upon this earth in October. While the substance's fall and form are different, the description of how the substance behaves feels very similar to the behavior of your tree. a tough, cottony, spiderweb-like substance would behave similarly in that shape. I think it's probably something different, but I saw something similar once. I was out for a hike in the woods when I came across a cherry tree in full blossom. A Japanese cherry tree in full blossom in the middle of the North American Midwestern forest. The petals were blowing in the wind, and the branches were shaking. The whole scene was quite lovely, and I walked closer to get a good look. That's when I noticed that it was the only tree blowing in the wind. The rest of them were not even twitching. And that is when I noticed that there were no petals on the ground around the tree. Not a single one. I was not scared at this point, but I was pretty sketched out, and I slowly backed away. That was when I saw the eyes peering out of a large branch at the top of the trunk. The best way I can describe this thing is a huge praying mantis, like one of those ones that pretend to be a flower or a leaf, except this one was pretending to be an entire tree, complete with branches, petals, leaves, etc. I could swear it was looking right at me, but I backed away, and it never came after me. Scariest thing I have ever seen.